This is the Nassaumen Hockey Podcast with James Nichols and John Zella. And just like that, the regular season comes to an end and the Islanders clinch kind of fourth place. Is it clinching if you just end up there?
I don't know that tripping and falling into something is necessarily clinching. Yeah, I'm not totally sure. I have to admit, but I guess we're gonna dive into it, so we won't waste any of it on the intro.
We will dive into it, but thank you for coming out again to another episode of the Nassaumen Hockey Podcast. I am James Nichols, as always, and I'm here with my good buddy John Zella. What's up, pal?
Good news lately, for the most part.
Absolutely.
After a really long year of being kind of unemployed and hopping around, I finally got a job offer the other day, and I'm going to do it. So huge weight lifted off the shoulders, and maybe I can put a little bit more positive energy into the show. Although I think we've done a pretty good job. It's been the whole thing has been during this crazy time. Like, I think there was maybe one episode, the first one, where it was before everything shut down and went a little haywire. So
yeah, it's interesting because we started this podcast before COVID hit, and we haven't had a traditional podcast experience, whereas we've only ever been able to do this remotely and not have been able to in person engage with the fans and stuff like that. So, who knows what's going to come our way in the future. We're going to, hopefully try to do a little more engaging things now that the COVID things are, and when I say things, there's just so much involved in it that, it's starting to die down a little bit with vaccines and stuff like that and, higher capacities and stuff. So, hopefully we can get a little bit more of a traditional experience going and we can, meet some people and have some, live shows out at venues at, I don't know, maybe a place called Offside Tavern, maybe something like that. We'll talk about that.
Yeah,
too.
Something like that. Even just getting together, future games in the parking lots and tailgating or whatever. We might just be somewhere getting a beer and say, come hang out. So
absolutely.
I'll make my way down to Long Island and we'll make it happen.
Yeah. So, and if you're listening to this, and you won our last giveaway, those are out and mailed to you. So you should be expecting those sometime soon. And we're looking forward to doing some more giveaways like that in the future. But until then, let's head over to On the Island, brought to you by DraftKings. This weekend's UFC 262 is sure to be a can't-miss event. Every punch, kick, and knockout means so much more with a DraftKings lineup on the line. DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of UFC, is giving you a shot at huge cash prizes. For this weekend's fight, DraftKings is offering all customers a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes. If you haven't tried it yet, Fantasy MMA is easy to play. Just pick 6 fighters, stay under the salary cap, and pile up points for advances, takedowns, and more. There's no better way to put your MMA knowledge to the test than to compete for a shot at millions of dollars in total cash prizes. Plus, don't forget about basketball and hockey, where DraftKings has even more money up for grabs throughout the week. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, so you can deposit and withdraw your funds at your convenience. Download the DraftKings app now and use promo code THPN for your shot at millions of dollars in total cash prizes throughout the week. That's promo code THPN to get a shot at millions of dollars in total prizes, only at DraftKings. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for more details. It's going to be a good episode when I get or I nail a flawless ad read. It's going to be one of those good ones. Feeling pretty good.
Yeah, let's see what we can do here. You have a high standard.
Yeah, let's talk about the previous week, and we saw the New Jersey Devils twice. Then we saw the Boston Bruins in the season finale for the 2020-21 season. And you referred to the Islanders stumbling into fourth place in the Mass Mutual East Division, which I hope we can do away with after this season.
I don't know. I think anything that made the league money this season, helmet ads and things, I think it's gonna. I don't like slippery slope arguments. That's not really where I live. But it was just once it was won, and we want to be a league like a lot of others, like the NBA, and pay our players more and not have a flat cap and all these other things. This is stuff you need to have happen.
Yeah.
I think now we don't think about it. That was a big story for us when on the show in the beginning, and I don't care. I don't
Yeah,
notice
that's kind
it.
of true.
You
I don't
know,
really
and
care either. I guess in the moment when I'm saying it, I'm like, that's kind of annoying to say, but I could also just not say it, and
well,
it
for
could
the
just
most
be
part, you
the
don't need
East.
to. No one does, and it's for promotional purposes
Right.
and different things like that. Helmet ads, all this stuff. In the NBA, I'm sure it was a little bit of a got people's feathers all riled up with the jersey ads, and then it happens and it goes away, and now you don't
Right.
think about it. I don't think there were any teams that it was like egregious. I think the Penguins, it was blue. The PPG Paints logo was blue, and
Yeah.
maybe it still is. But I remember seeing a black and white one as well. It's fine.
Yeah.
I
It's
I
fine.
don't. It's not going to be like soccer jerseys or like in Europe. It's a little
Right.
more
Exactly.
put together than that. As much as the NHL is a joke, sometimes it's not going to go. Not to say that those leagues are a joke. It's just a different revenue system.
Yeah. Yeah.
The rinks are smaller. They can't. Yeah. It'll be fine. And if it makes the league money and we can enjoy it better, they have these new TV deals. It's just not it's not always going to be the same,
Yeah.
that it always was. And there was
Absolutely.
a time where there was no ads on the boards.
I know. It's pretty crazy, right?
It happens. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. It's making the league money, and honestly, at the end of the day, it's better for the league. So, but let's start with the first game against the Devils, which was more of the same, right? The Islanders lose 2-1 in regulation, and that's a big 2 points they probably could have used because clinching third place in the East Division probably wouldn't have come down to the wire. So
Well, at the end of the day, as we said on the last episode, I don't know that any of the positioning matters. They weren't going to catapult to to second place,
right?
So
it was pick your poison, Penguins or Capitals.
And Brendan Burke did mention this part, which will contradict myself here. It's a matter of, for that third round, the conference final.
Yeah,
it does matter, and the final, it will matter who has more points and home advantage, because it's going to be mixed. Everything's going to be mixed together, and essentially reseeded when it gets to that point. So
yeah,
third place may have mattered not because of the place, but just because of the points that they collected or didn't collect. So luckily, they're in a better spot just because the East is really tough, and they were able to collect good amount of points. So.
Yeah, I mean they sit at 11th overall in the standings. So anybody between 12 and 18. Actually, it's funny. Rangers wind up in 14th place this season. Dallas ends up in 15th place. Winnipeg and St. Louis and Montreal still have games to play, but as of right now, they are sitting above playoff teams. So some of the top 16 teams didn't even make it. That's crazy.
It was a discussion I heard on other shows and some other things to like, is it just the 16 best teams? Is it just, I don't know how I feel about that one way or another. It is super. If I'm a Ranger fan, I'm super annoyed that, you get put in a division, but that kind of changes. There was a time when Anaheim, LA, and San Jose were all really good.
Right.
And, it switches around a little
definitely.
bit, although, fourth place in the West and the Central are really far behind 1 through 3.
Yep.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
But you also have like juggernauts in that division that are just going to absolutely crush you. Or, it's very strange to say that Florida is a juggernaut in that division, but they all played really well.
Yes, they did.
So, and Carolina I think they snuck up top, if I'm not mistaken. They wound up in the number 1 seed. So, funny how that worked out. And an all Florida series.
Right. That's going to be great. They've already started going at each other, man.
Yeah, last night it was quite the battle the night before.
Yep.
And no, it's awesome. It's good to see that around the league. But yeah, if I'm some of those teams, I'm a little annoyed, but that's how that's how it shakes out. You can't I don't know. You're not going to complain about the scheduling and this and that. There's a million caveats throughout the season.
Yeah. Well, anyway, part of the reason why the Islanders wound up in 4th place was because of their lackluster play, and that continued in the first game of the back-to-back against the Devils. They drop the game 2-1, and they lose in regulation. Another poor performance where the Islanders just didn't show up. And we spoke about that, for a few episodes now, where it's just like, what's really going on with this team? Can they flip a switch and change their momentum? And the following game, they did just that. They wound up coming out guns blazing. They win 5-1. Good to see. Matt Barzal played well. The first line played well. Leo Komarov continues to just, for some reason, work. But and then we head to Boston, and despite not winning that game and maybe not having a complete 60-minute effort, it was still a good tune-up game for them, and where I'd say they hung with the Bruins for at least 50 minutes. There was a span, I think it was in the latter half of the first period, where they were being outshot like 14-4. It's pretty bad. But they caught a break, couple penalties called on going their way. Fought back into the game and even things out a little bit. It was an encouraging sign to see them play that well, because the Bruins have been playing so well since the trade deadline, right? Taylor Hall and Curtis Lazar.
Oh my God.
And they kind of, ignited a fire for that lineup.
Yeah, I mean, we circled this for a little bit. I definitely through the end of April and into early May, we've done a couple episodes, and we said that that's going to be a game just because they were playing, a good Rangers team, but they were playing the Devils and Buffalo, and they kind of had this break and this lull. And I think Barzal sat a game. We spoke about that.
Yeah, against Buffalo.
Yeah, and there was kind of this, Clutterbuck got some rest. Even against the Bruins,
Clutterbuck played against the Bruins.
I'm sorry, Matt Martin.
Martin got a rest.
You're right. And Johnson didn't look bad in that role.
No, I tell you what,
Johnson, a lot of people suspect, would have suspected that Martin, and him was, swapped eventually, but I don't know. So I think it was encouraging.
Yeah, so that's the thing, right? We constantly, you and I, talk about, can they flip that switch? And if they lose a game, that's fine, as long as they're in it. And the last two games kind of proved that they can flip that switch. The full roster wasn't dressed in either of the last three games, right? Some guys sat for to get a day off. Others were ailing, something that they were just trying to get a little bit of extra rest to go into the playoffs healthy. But now it's confirmed that the Islanders will be playing the Penguins, and they will be going into the playoffs with hopefully a full team. Now, at the end of that Bruins game, we did see in the third period, Varlamov did not come out. Ilya Sorokin winds up going into the net with Corey Schneider scrambling to get dressed and back him up for the rest of that game, which I completely forgot. There's no more e-bugs, and now that because the taxi squad is a thing, that they're allowed to do that. So that's pretty good. It's good that they dress three goalies and have them at all time. Well,
it's just goalies, I think when Sorokin goes in, or
yeah,
Schneider might be in the back, just in the lower half of his gear, pretty much every game, and it throws on
it's
the shoulder pads and things like that, and just comes right out. I remember being like, oh, he just like on the bench, just like out of nowhere.
But
I guess that's and Sorokin played well.
Sorokin did. He came in and he played well. Taylor Hall put a heck of a move on to score that game-winning goal, but
walked.
It's true. But Barzal had a good game offensively. Wahlstrom, another snipe. That's very encouraging to see. And it was also really encouraging to see that he got time with Barzal, because that was on a 4-on-3. So you had Nelson, Wahlstrom, Leddy, and Barzal out there, which is a group that I really like at a 4-on-3. And Barzal did a really good job drawing the three defenders, because that's all there were on the ice. Laid out a perfect pass to Wahlstrom, and again, he just doesn't hesitate. He shoots the puck.
I think, and it's interesting because he's the only player on the team that does that.
Right.
It's anti-Trotz. It's not methodical. It kind of goes against everything that he does.
And it was so nice to see the way, I don't know if you noticed this or if anybody notices this but me. I just might be crazy like that, but the way the puck entered the net and hit the net, I haven't seen an Islander goal that clean where it just shot, goal, and the net was just, it just did that.
Well, it's because Pulock doesn't hit the net when he does score a goal,
right?
And it buzzes in there. Yeah,
it was a very, and I'm not saying this isn't a direct comparison, but it was a very Ovechkin-esque goal. I was just very happy to see that, and I hope
it was a goal. It was I hate this because it's very cliche, but it was a goal scorer's goal.
Was
people that score goals like that. It's the Austin Matthews. Again, we're not putting Wahlstrom in this category quite yet. It's a little early, but it's one of those same kind of goals where you see just like no hesitation right off their stick, the Patrick Laine's and the Austin Matthews of the game that just in the net. I snap my fingers. You can't hear that, but it's
you might have heard that.
I should. Yeah, yours is a little closer to the mic, but yeah, I think that's where, that's good to see because the team just that's what
they're lacking.
That's what they're lacking, and we're diving into the Penguins series. Did we decide we're doing?
Yeah, we're gonna.
Okay, so I think what on the Athletic, Staple and Sean Gentili and a bunch of other folks kind of went over the series a little bit, and the one thing that a few of them brought up was that the Penguins and Islanders series is going to depend on can the Islanders contain the Penguins' speed, and that was their problem this year as opposed to in other seasons where the Islanders were the energetic team. And that's really what their identity has been, right? Like this goes back a long time, as we talked about. Really, that 2013 series where the Islanders not only kept up, but they controlled the tempo in some of the games. They weren't coached well enough then to be what they look like now, right? So that's when you do get into that 2019 series, and regardless of those cup wins with the Penguins and all the experience and this, Sidney Crosby, you can't count. He's on the ice. He's in the game. He's going to contribute.
Yep.
And the Islanders managed to shut them down. Now they've retooled since then. It's not that 2019 team anymore.
Right.
They did add some pieces. It's different goaltending. Right? Am I making that up?
Matt Murray was with
Matt Murray. Then. So it's different goaltending. They screamed out in the second half of the season and right up the standings.
Yeah, they did.
And they're on a roll, and the Islanders are catching them at an interesting time as they kind of slip. Now they're capable of flipping a switch. If there was any team to just do it, and Trotz said multiple times, mentally they were tired, physically they were tired. So maybe they can just flip that switch and get back to Islander hockey. I just think it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
We just didn't see it with them against this team this year.
I think they can do it. Now, what's interesting is, we have the statistic here up on the screen. The Islanders went 2-4-2 in the regular season against the Penguins, right? You have Sidney Crosby, 8 games, 9 points, 3 goals, 6 assists. Malkin, 6 games, 6 points, 2 goals, 4 assists. Rust, 8 games, 8 points, 5 goals, 3 assists. Letang, 8 games, 9 points, 4 goals, 5 assists. Not one of those guys was below a point per game against the Islanders. So those are going to be some guys they're going to look to contain. However,
I mean, like you have Mayfield that's been struggling.
Yeah.
You don't have the Boychuk that you had in that 19 series.
There's
some things missing to me. That there are some things missing. The fourth line does not seem like it can keep up right now.
Yeah,
it does not seem to be. And they're the engine on this team. They really stir the drink. Barzal is the guy, right? He needs to be on.
That's true.
Can this fourth line be? They're the identity line. they're what's going to make this kind of make or break. I think the bottom 6 of any team is what wins them championships. When it gets to this point in the season, you could talk about your top 6 and the other team's top 6 is a wash.
Well,
they have to be better, but they're going to be the one that scores the goals. Who is the secondary scoring that's really and who can be shut down more? And that's where that bottom 6 is really important.
It's really interesting. You're 100% right, but it's interesting because you just said that the top 6s are a wash, and really they're not, right? We've said time and time again on paper.
No, I mean, like on paper, they're not. Not for the Islanders because it's not a good look.
But we've said time and time again, this team basically has like 3 second lines and a third line. And now I know we're talking about how the fourth line has not really been themselves, but once the playoffs come, clean slate for everyone, in my opinion. I think everybody sees it as almost like a new start to the season, but with something on the line, obviously.
Right.
So I think that switch will be flipped. I think it's there. They need to figure out how to score, but in terms of depth, they still have it. It stinks that Leo Komarov, as much as it's working, I don't know if it stinks anymore, but as much as it's working, he's on the first line. But if you have Anders Lee in this is a deep team, tough team to beat. So going into this matchup, I'm pretty happy with a third line of Palmieri, Peugeot, and Wahlstrom. I think that's going to be a huge X factor.
And we're jumping ahead to the Q&A a little bit. Michael Minucci 13 asked, "Do you believe that line is a sustainable group in the first round of the playoffs?"
So interesting. I didn't even realize that because I hadn't read the question yet. But
Michael, do you think
here's the answer to your question? Yeah, I do. I think it's sustainable. I think that Palmieri has looked a little bit better since speaking to Trotz. I don't know if you didn't catch my tweet the other night. Trotz had spoken to Palmieri and said, "Don't worry about scoring a goal. Go out there, be a greasy player, and all you have to do is be that greasy player." The following game, after that conversation, he scores a goal. So I think that Palmieri, Peugeot, and Wahlstrom are starting to build a little bit of chemistry, and I think it's sustainable for that line to stay consistent. So it's between them and the second line, really, for as the X factors, because we saw what the second line did last year in the bubble. Beauvillier was a nightmare for every opponent. Bailey was just feeding Nelson and Beauvillier goals, and Nelson was doing what he does, and he was scoring. So
I think they can turn it on. I don't know that they'll be quite the same force.
Listen,
I think they can a little bit. That it'll be Palmieri actually stepping up.
Yeah,
Peugeot being the same player that he was last year, and Wahlstrom is kind of refined. He's finding his scoring touch again.
Right, and look, the Islanders are not going to sweep the Penguins again. It's not going to happen. There's a 3% chance of that happening.
I want to see what this team looks like in Game 1.
We'll see. That's going to be a very telling.
It can't be what we've seen.
If
it is, it's going to be a short series.
And we say that, however, and maybe this isn't the same team as last season. Maybe it is, but last season in the conference finals, Game 1 against the Lightning was absurd. We got blown away. The following 5 games, they were in every single one.
I mean, it was
despite losing the series.
It was lopsided. They gave the Lightning more than they handled than any other point in the playoff run. However, it was still very clear the Lightning were the better team.
Absolutely, but not at any point did I sit there and I say to myself, this team is just not in it. They were in it, and they do I think the Lightning are better than the Penguins? Yes. So do I think that the Islanders can take this first round matchup? Absolutely. I don't see any reason why they can't take this first round matchup. They swept them last season. They retooled a little bit, yes. But their guys have to show up too. Yes, Crosby, Malkin, Russ, and Letang are the core. Jake Gensel as well are the core of this team. But after Letang on the blue line, who's there? After Gensel and that list of players who I said, Kasperi Kapanen has to, show up. Jason Zucker has to show up, and those guys are known.
I mean, Jeff Carter has experience with this.
Yes,
I don't think
one.
He's gonna. I don't think he's gonna score 15 goals in a playoff or a run to the
he
cup with
scored
the Penguins.
8 since the trade deadline.
And that's crazy. You know what I mean? All right, so maybe I'm wrong. It's he can still do it, and it's a veteran presence that with cup experience. The Islanders are a group though that they have experience over the last 3 years. It does kind of extend back to that 2016 series win against the Panthers.
Right.
A lot of these same guys. Some guys go even further back than that.
Right.
So,
and
Bailey
I don't
and
know.
Martin and Cizikas, but even still, I think that's important.
I don't know that this is a thing. Some people talk about do players, once they're locked into a playoff position, do they let up a little bit and then turn it on later? I don't know. I think once you're in the game and you're playing. But, again, it's very possible that could be part of that switch that we keep talking about that they will flip. So,
I'll ask this question because I have my own answer. What do you think is the one thing in the Islanders' favor right now?
Goaltending.
I would say that too. That's a
goaltending by far. I don't know that, and it still remains to be seen because Vegas has another game to play, that there's a better tandem in the league. But Vegas has another game to play, and it's possible that Varlamov and Sorokin win the Vezina. Sorry,
Jennings.
The Jennings.
Yeah, they're still. Yeah, it's within single digit goals at this point.
I think it's, if it's not 1, it's like 2.
Yeah, it's so, really. I forget. I heard something during last night's broadcast.
Aside from, the ugly play from Mayfield, I think the defense is overall better than the Penguins' defense.
Yes, and
they don't have a Letang who's going to put up 9 points in 8 games, but
they have a Pulock. Look, if there was ever a time for him to show up offensively,
correct,
and I think between Pulock and Pelech, they're a great shutdown pair. But Pelech has shown he's way more versatile than we thought.
And that was something I was going to bring up too. His
underrated
offensive ability has just flourished this season. And I'm not saying, I think he had something like 15 points, but for him, that's a lot.
I don't know that it was so much the offensive output, which is awesome. Like, you want to see it from the guy, but just his ability to maneuver around guys and kind of escape danger.
He just does
in the zone.
It's little things that contribute.
Little touches.
Yeah.
He's softer on the puck than you'd expect him to be. And it's awesome. It's something that you'd think a year or two ago you wouldn't think that this is the kind of play that he can have.
Knock on wood, he's healthy.
And everyone. I mean, he had,
I'm not gasping for air every time he lays out for a puck anymore.
Right.
So that's a huge factor.
The defense and the structure, for me, are big factors. And I'll say this too. This is my answer to that question, or what's in the Islanders' favor, or what's their advantage right now. They have a week off.
Okay. Yeah. That
and
too, sure.
And I think you can't compare it to the huge break last season, but it's kind of like when a goalie goes to the bench. The other team is getting a little momentum. They score a goal.
Yeah.
It's all of a sudden it's 3-2. The goalie and the winning team goes to the bench. They mess around with some pad thing. They slow the game down a little bit.
Yeah.
This is that for the Islanders.
Yeah, because it's the Vancouver Canucks schedule got pushed back a little bit because they had some COVID issues. And the last game of the regular season for the NHL is on Saturday. Now
teams got pushed back. Dallas got pushed back. Boston got. I think Boston still has another game this week.
Right. Now, did I also see that the Capitals and Bruins also start the playoffs on Saturday?
I don't know that. I think that one way or another. It's definitely before the Islanders Penguins series. Either way,
which does not have a schedule yet.
Right, and I saw people were annoyed about that, and people need to chill out. you're just looking for things to get mad at. They will announce it. What do you think? They're just like an Islanders bias that they don't want to announce the schedule?
Right.
You go get a different hobby. But either way, I think the thing that's really, really important here is that they have time to practice a little bit. They have time to mentally. They probably just went home today. They just went. They weren't at the rink. They just had a day.
I would agree with that.
And they might have another day or two of that between now and then.
Hold on, I'm sorry. The Bruins and Capitals play Saturday, which coincides with the regular season game with the Canucks and the Oilers. But then Sunday, there's a regular season game with the Flames and the Canucks. So that's interesting.
Yeah, that's the NHL just saying like, those are two non-playoff teams. They knew that 2 weeks ago. Like,
yeah,
what are you doing to these guys? It's bad enough, the actually the Capitals, and as we speak, Tuesday night, the Bruins and Capitals are at it.
Right.
And the Bruins I think are taking it to the Caps. Pretty good. So that'll be a good series. And it's definitely worth keeping your eye on just because it has huge second round implications, obviously. So it'll be worth seeing that too. But yeah, I think this time off will be really good. Hard reset for the team.
It's almost like that mini training camp they had last season going in, right? They can go home, like you said, and rest a little bit, but then come back and focus on practice. They've got about Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
It's almost
Sunday,
a week.
Almost 5 days, 6 days off.
Yeah, it's 6 days, maybe without a game.
A good mental reset.
They haven't had 2 or 3 days off in a row in a long time. So it's again some time away from the rink, but also time together, power plays, getting maybe this is a good time for Palmieri to get more acclimated to the team and the systems. It's tough. You're in the middle of the season.
Right.
There isn't a lot of time. We saw Pajot struggle with that.
Yeah.
And it was only 7 games last season before the pause. So I think this could be good. It gives whatever Varlamov did, and I think it was precautionary. It wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
He was like, something's like a little okay, great. You know what you're gonna do? You're gonna go take a seat. We're going to get you taken care of. You'll get off the ice for a couple of days and it'll be fine.
And they confirmed that too. They said, it was just a mild strain that he was just,
Right. Because we said that. I said that in the chat last night with you and Joe.
Like,
this is precautionary. There's nothing to worry about. There's no reason for him to be playing if it's even something small. You're saving him at this point. If you got him an extra period worth of time to relax. Good. You got Sorokin in there. He is eager to play, even though we got the loss. I know he wants to play. So yeah, I think that's a bigger advantage than maybe we're thinking about this time. The Penguins also get that as well, but they've been playing well. So it's a little harder for them to keep it going where the Islanders get to come in fresh. Correct. The Penguins kind of wish, again, the Penguins might be the team that scored that second goal and making that comeback, and the Islanders are like, no, Varley, get over here. Your paddle looks weird. Let's slow her down a little bit and go from there. Stuff like that really does change the tide. So hopefully this can be something positive for this team.
This is something that if there's levels to it, right? You have a weighted level, it's starting to even out at this point, right? They're Penguins are coming off a high where the Islanders are coming off a lull, and it's starting to even out. They get some time off, they'll refresh and everything.
It's a new season. It's not anything to, I wouldn't, it's easy to say now as the regular season came to a conclusion on Monday night, the Islanders are backsliding in, and I even started this episode kind of busting their chops a little bit. But in all fairness, it is a completely different thing.
When I'll start to be worried about them? I'll be worried about them halfway through game 2. If they lost game 1 and look like crap, halfway through game 2, I'll be like, okay, this team's in trouble. They're done.
I could agree with that.
Yeah.
It's because it's going to be hard you have to steal one on the road. I know that's a hockey cliche, but you have to be able to steal one on the road.
You have to.
And that was a huge advantage for them in 2019.
Right.
Where they took both, obviously. So they need to make sure that they play them close. It's going to be Yeah, and then they've been a terrible road team. That's another bad thing for them.
Right. But there's going to be more fans at the in the playoff seats, which is nice to see. I think something like 7,000 fans, as opposed to the 15-ish hundred that have been
went
in
up
attendance.
From 25% to 50 or something.
Something like that.
It's like 2,800 fans. Now it's 7 something, whatever it is. It's half.
Yeah.
So it went up, which is good. So yeah, that'll be an advantage. But you don't want to have to. You don't want to come home 2-0. That's a hard mountain to climb, because then the next, even if you win both of those games, 2 out of 3 are on the road. So it's still an uphill battle. If you didn't play well those first 2 games, it's really hard to kind of rebound from that. It's not impossible. It's obviously been done, but you don't want to be put in that position. So they kind of need to rekindle their true identity. They need to be that team that's really hard to play against, that shut down those bigger players, throughout the season. They did it against Boston. And they were struggling with some injuries, and they've struggled with it with the addition of Taylor Hall, but that was why they did that. They're more than the perfection line in Boston, so they're just going to be trouble. And they're a good experienced team to begin with. So they just kind of added a guy that is totally refound its game, and good for him. You can't wish, you hope it's not against the Islanders, although he's lit them up lately. But yeah, you kind of hope if everything kind of evens out, they can really turn things around, and they're good at creating their own positivity. As long as they can play their game, it'll be fine.
Yeah. Last thing I want to say about the playoffs, agree or disagree with me. The only way Sorokin gets a start is if Varlamov is really struggling after a game. You know what? I'll go with that second half of the second game of the series. If it's, the Islanders are struggling, they lose game 1 halfway through game 2, Sorokin doesn't get a start until the Islanders get desperate.
I don't know what the schedule will look like. I don't disagree with that. I guess I agree with there. Unless it's some kind of back-to-back, I don't think that's in the cards this year like it was for sure last year as they condensed everything. I think there's a little more room. I don't know if there will or won't be any back-to-backs, so it remains to be seen. Mm-hmm. That might be the other way that Sorokin gets a game, but I think he knows that.
Yeah, I don't know that there would be back-to-backs. I get that they might want to, push the schedule so it's over sooner. But it's the playoffs too. That doesn't happen too often.
I mean, they really are ending things. Sorry, random small creature just ran across my deck. That was weird. Anyway,
got a lot of those.
Yeah, it's a little fox or something. Everything's rabbits. What were we saying?
I was saying it's not going to be.
Yeah, so I don't. The schedule last year was super condensed. The NHL did manage to end their season on time this year, which I gotta hand it to them. They're gonna have all teams play every single game. That's kind of amazing. They managed to just do it despite the cancellations and the hardships and all the riffraff around the Canucks and everything that went wrong with Dallas and a few other teams and the Flyers and Boston, all this stuff. Yeah, so you got to hand it to them. They managed to do it. They pull it off. So I think the playoff schedule is it'll look a little more normal. That'll be the most normal part of the season. But we'll have to see.
Absolutely. All right, moving on from the playoffs, which by the way, before I do that, there is no schedule yet. Be on the lookout for either one of our tweets personally or from the NHP account, and including Joe Pantorno, for that said schedule. Heard murmurs it would be Monday. It's still possible it could be Sunday, but turn those notifications on and we'll let you know when we know. Let's talk about the new-ish affiliation for the New York Islanders down in the AHL. The Sound Tigers took or they did a reboot, right? Is that grammatically correct? They rebooted their systems. There we go. I can English.
You're the teacher. You tell me.
I am the teacher, the English teacher. The Sound Tigers rebooted their systems, and they have retooled and rebranded, and they are now the Bridgeport Islanders. And I gotta be honest, upon initial reaction, the logo came out, the possible jersey pictures were floating around. I tweeted one. I hated the logo as soon as I saw it. I gotta be honest. And I think I said to you, it's disappointing that the Vegas Golden Knights can pull off something spectacular, such as the Silver Knights, and have some really, really cool designs. And then the Islanders team looked at the logo for the Bridgeport Islanders and said to themselves, after it was up on the board, they're all looking at what they made. They're like, yeah, that's the same. Looks just as cool as a Silver Knight, and it doesn't. Now, thinking about it a little more, I kind of understand what they did.
I want you to tell me, because I have a very different take on this.
So they tried to really stick with the New York Islanders logo, except with a B. They have the hockey stick, they have the Islanders, in the circle. They tried to make it look like what the New York Islanders logo would look like if it were just Bridgeport. That's the way I see it. They tried to make it a circular logo with the initial of their location with the hockey stick, and they threw the NY as the stick tape, which you had to really look close to really get that. But now that you see it, you can't unsee it. I kind of get what they did there. Now, people are complaining, but Bridgeport's not an island, and that's not the point of this. The point of this is to stay within the affiliation. Everything looks uniform and the same, and it didn't look too different with the Sound Tiger logo on their jersey. And although that this is not an Islander logo on their jersey, it's a similar logo, and they're pulling on almost the same sweater. So I kind of get it. I don't love it.
It looks unfinished to me. This is like, all right, everybody kind of come up with your ideas, and
this is a high school classroom, by the way, right? That you're talking about.
Yeah, no ideas are a bad idea. Just bring it to the table, and we'll flesh it out from there. We just want to see, because there's combinations of things. This is like a combination of two people's idea, and then they just like didn't finish fleshing it out at all. And it just doesn't, there's no need for the tape like that. Do the 4 bars. Why are we going away from that? Do the 4 bars. Well, real simple.
The Sound Tigers don't have 4 championships.
But it's if you're creating consistency throughout the organization, just do it simple. Okay. Make it whatever, right? Like, just if that's the idea, one family and we're whatever.
We're all the same. We're all Islanders.
Do it right. We're all Islanders. Then that's fine. Just do the same thing. It would have looked fine.
Yeah.
With just the without that. That to me makes it a little messy, because you're like, what is it? And I didn't know it was an NY. It looks like an M.
It does. It looks like an M. Because
I don't know what I don't even know what it doesn't. Other than that, it looks
it's not
a little
the full
chintzy.
Y. That's the thing. It's not the full Y.
Yeah. So like, if you have to, here's my take on any marketing. If you have to explain it, it's not good. Period. If you have to go and be like, okay, so what it is nope. You should be able to look at that and go, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. I know exactly what they did there. And that's kind of my problem. It looks like a beer league logo.
Right. And that's why I said, look how good the Silver Knights did. Right. That is consistent. The Silver Knights jerseys came out. I was like, this could be an NHL jersey. This could be an NHL team. This looks amazing. And it makes sense. It's like, okay, the Silver Knights and the Golden Knights, you graduate from the Golden Knights or the Silver Knights to the Golden Knights, or vice versa. You get sent down.
Yeah.
But they tried to keep uniform within the Islanders. Everybody's an Islander. They're all Islanders, and that's the hashtag. We're all Islanders. So I kind of get it, and again, I kind of, when hopefully some people, and tweet at me, let me know if you do, when you hear my explanation of what they tried to do with the B and the hockey stick, right? The Islanders logo has the hockey stick. They have the initials of where they're from. They have the circular logo. They tried to recreate that for Bridgeport.
Yeah, but like you nailed it on the first. You nailed it on the first time. You're not going to strike. It's not going to strike twice.
Oh no, yeah, it's not.
You can't be like, how do we make a different Islanders logo? You're like, you know what? They tried that with the Fishermen, and people really didn't like it.
True.
You don't
like this more or less than the Fishermen?
This isn't a thing to like. If that's on their jersey,
so nobody likes this.
That's a shoulder patch at best.
Woo.
At best, and a bad one.
Yeah.
I think, and so I'm here in Syracuse. If you've been listening long enough, I've said that a few times.
You're from Syracuse?
Yeah, I live in good old CNY. Anyway, Lucas Favali, who's the play-by-play guy for the Crunch, had a great tweet earlier today, and something that I, upon further reflection, I agree with. He said decisions like this, and he's quote tweeting the AHL communications and the announcement of the new logo. Decisions like this make me even more grateful that Howard Dolgan, who owns the Crunch, had the foresight to create and build the Crunch as its own brand. It needs to be the affiliation can grow, and you can figure out ways to make that better and stronger, but I don't see the need for that. It's not like that. And I mean, they did that recently. The Mets did that with the Syracuse Mets. They changed the whole thing. It was the Syracuse Chiefs going back really decades and decades, 70 years of this thing, through different leagues and different iterations. It always came back. The logos changed, the affiliations changed.
Yeah.
They changed it. It was more Native American, and they changed it to like a train chief. I get all of that stuff, and they that always changes. The big changes worry me a little bit.
See, it's interesting too, because you said that the reason why the Crunch did what they did was to, grow the game in Syracuse.
Well, it's to build the brand,
and to build the brand, right?
So that it doesn't change. Because if something, their affiliates change, they've been the Ducks, they've been the Canucks, they've been they were with the Lightning, they were with Columbus, but it's always been the Crunch. Even if the colors changed or whatever, it was always the Crunch, and it was its own brand for the community. This isn't for people on the Bridgeport isn't for NHL fans necessarily. They're going to follow whatever affiliate is associated with the team.
Right.
It doesn't matter if they're the Big Birds. It is just irrelevant.
Right.
I just thought there was nothing wrong with what they were doing. And who asked the Bridgeport fans? Who was the marketing? Where was the marketing research on this?
Well, that's
this is the same thing. What do I ask you all the time when you send me these goofy ass Islander jersey concepts? Who was asking for this?
But just to clarify, I don't send you that and go, we should do this.
No,
all of those are horrible most of the time, and I say, ew.
I'm not saying that you like them. I'm just saying my point is, who's asking for it?
No, right.
I would say the same thing with this.
That's
what's interesting. Hell was asking for this.
That's what I wanted to say, because the statement they put out following this rebrand was that they're trying to grow, the Islanders in the Bridgeport community. So that's what this was about.
I can see that. I think, look, there's a certain part of my, my marketing brain that's trying to turn the wheels. Like, okay, why would they have done this? It kind of makes sense. UBS, it's an opportunity to kind of like rebrand some stuff here, upgrade the entire organization from top to bottom. You forget that Chris Lamorello runs Bridgeport. There's been one of the longer term affiliations in the league. It's been a long time since it's been different.
Right.
I kind of get it. If there was a time to do it, I understand the timing. I think the execution, it's kind of like those Stadium Series jerseys for the Islanders that are now their third jerseys.
Sort of.
What I mean is they're not any good. I get what they were trying to do. It just wasn't. It looks unfinished. You just
and I'll tell you what,
didn't do it all the way.
I'll tell you what, the marketing that they did for this rebrand was kind of crazy good. I loved the buildup. The buildup was phenomenal.
The strategy on the strategy side of things, and as somebody that's their career, I totally respect the shit out of that.
Loved it.
And I love it.
And then
the
it was like
down. This thing is the whatever. They did it. They did it. The execution on the strategy was flawless.
And
it was just like the artistic side of like, okay, we're gonna lead up to this other moment. No, that was.
It's like when a clown is holding up a toy gun and it says "bang."
Oh, right. There's all these tricks, all like magician, all these tricks, and all the stuff, and then it's like, oh, that's what you ended with. That was the finale.
That was tough. It was tough to look at. It really was.
It is, really, and I'm looking at. I'm trying to figure it out. You know what it looks like. It looks like the weird Carolina logo that they did with the flag on the stick.
Yes,
it looks like they were like, I like that.
Yeah, and that's terrible. Leaps and bounds better than this,
right?
And I think
that's not good, and I don't like that one.
I even said to you and Joe, I was like, because somebody had found the logo within the transmitting of the the error codes with all the Sound Tigers.
Someone was. We were going to talk about that if it didn't get launched.
Someone found the logo, and I said to you guys, I said that had to be like a fake. There's no way that's it. And sure enough, womp. That was it. I could not. I don't know.
I'm sitting here. I'm trying to like lean back I'm trying to. I don't get it. The Sound Tigers, it was like.
Are you currently looking at it on your screen?
I'm currently looking at it. I'm trying to get it. Like, it's crisp. There's some things that I like about it that I guess I understand. You're just trying to like build a logo around Bridgeport, Connecticut. That's what you thought was the Bridgeport, Connecticut, the place where you get off the ferry from Port Jeff down Port. That's it.
If you're listening from Connecticut, we love you.
No, I mean, look, it's not about. I mean, just,
I know.
Look, if the Islanders were all of a sudden like, we're Hicksville's team, you're like, Hicksville?
No.
What who cares about Hicksville?
Stop.
But that's any town, literally any town. I was like, that's what you want to. The B in Bridgeport is what you want to. Not the Sound Tigers with a cool. I don't know. I like their jerseys. It was all pretty consistent. There was nothing.
But I get the continuity. I get the uniform.
I get at that point if they're they're not Islanders in Connecticut.
I know.
It's just that's not.
But that's not what it's about.
I get it. It's just they're all they're not really whatever. There's just nothing that even connects with. It's like
because if you think about it, right?
We're spending way too much time on this.
We are spending a little bit too much time on it. I'm going to say my final thoughts on it. There's no connection to a Golden Night in Vegas. So maybe they had
but it's a play on things.
This is just right.
And it's not like it's the Stockton Flames or something. Like I don't know. Or it's just like there's no creativity in that.
Yeah. No, I agree.
At least the Sound Tigers, it was like, it was this somewhat different organization. And they're not, I mean, maybe they need to rebrand because they're not playing. They're just looking at any way to kind of refresh because they have not been good the last few years. Or they're just trying to find any kind of way. This ultimately means nothing. Yeah, we're going to just say Bridgeport like we always did. It doesn't matter. It makes it confusing, when we're writing in our other life, when we're writing things and you have to say Bridgeport Islanders instead of just like Bridgeport Sound Tigers. And then you're going to say Bridgeport anyway. Doesn't matter.
We are going to just stick with Bridgeport. Maybe they're trying to also give the AHL affiliate a sense of credibility because they have been pretty bad for a little while now. Could be that too. So we'll see how it pans out for them. Maybe it's not as bad as we think it is. Listen, At first, we all hated the reverse retro jersey, did we not?
Well, I didn't hate it. I just didn't think it was the spirit of the thing.
Okay, we all disagreed.
It was not a reverse retro, even if it was. It just
we
wasn't
all
the
thought it
spirit
should
of
have been something else, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so
Orange.
we'll see how this works out.
Because that's literally reverse retro. But
yeah, true. We'll see how this works out for the newly affiliated kind of Bridgeport Islanders. But on a brighter note, last night while watching the game, whether you were paying attention or you weren't, as soon as Brendan Burke whispered the words offside, and not talking about, something, an event that happened in the game, that T hit Tavern, you were like, your ears perked. You're like, what? The Offside Tavern's being revived? It is. The Offside Tavern will be taking over the Overlook Bar on 44th Street between 2nd and 3rd Avenue for the duration of the Islanders playoff run. And I caught a little bit of the interview with Mike Carver on his podcast. And, he said that there's not a week that goes by that Nick and the organization are not in contact. And, the organization is very aware of the fact that the Offside Tavern scratched an itch for the fan base. And as much as I think that this is, a great thing that it's happening, and I'm sad to know that it's only temporary. The other half of me is kind of excited for the fact that I feel like I kind of know, and I'm not confirming anything, but I feel like I kind of know this is going to lead to something more. Nick's a great guy. We've had him on the podcast before. He's a very, he's an Islander. He's a team first guy, and that means, his team is the fans, the Islander fans. And he doesn't want to just do it for himself. He wants to do it for all of you listening right now. So it's really cool to see that this is happening for him for at least this playoff run. And all the goods are returning: the Josh Ho Tangs, the Boy Chuck Punch, the Tater Trots, etc. All of the items that were on the menu will be back. And they said it will look, I don't know if it's going to be exactly like Offside Tavern was, but they said it's going to look a lot like it did. And if you took anything from the previous Offside Tavern, please return it so they can hang it back on the walls, or, put the bench out there that you possibly stole from them, right?
That's really funny. That's really funny. I'm happy for him. Obviously he's, friend of the show, and you saw the Islanders kind of latch on to Blue Line and Oyster Bay Brewing.
Yeah.
And also who have been on the show and supported the show and all that kind of stuff.
Yes,
I think. Yes Man Outfitters. I don't know, did they have affiliation with the Islanders?
They've done some work together, if I'm not mistaken, because I think he prints shirts for Blue Line that Blue Line gets from him anyway. So,
Yeah, either way, I think it's, the Islanders affiliation with these kind of local businesses really speaks to the essence of really who the Islanders are and the community is. And that's kind of what we latched onto. We were able to connect with all these awesome people last year and not, have them on the show during pause and all that kind of stuff. So it's cool to see him kind of come back and everyone be that excited, because I think if we all had our way, it would still be around. He'd still be doing his thing. So it's really cool to see it come back. And I hope he's running a bar. I don't care what it's called. He obviously knows how to throw parties for the other games. So I'll be tailgating there inside somewhere. Everyone, all you crazies will be in the parking lot. I can't hang.
Yeah, I'm super stoked for Nick. Congratulations, if you're listening. Really happy for you and your crew. Yeah, you definitely deserved it, and looking forward to seeing how it pans out for you. Let's head over to the Q&A. We tweeted out earlier this week, taking questions for the show. We picked a few, and let's start with Tristan Peck, Michael Minucci, at Michael Minucci 13. We addressed yours earlier regarding Wahlstrom, Peugeot, and Palmieri. He asked if the line is sustainable. I already said yes. Tune in at about, I don't know, 15 minutes. You'll you'll hear it again. But at Tristan Peck says, aside from Trotz being an elite coach and switching the team up at a gear, I'm struggling to see how we beat a team who A, dominated us this season, B, have home advantage, and C, are in way better form. Listen, the best answer I can give you is something that we stated earlier, is that there's a couple of days off and the playing field is probably evening out a little bit with a slight edge to the Penguins because they have a little bit more of an offensive talent and they had our number this season. However, I do think that once the playoffs come, it is a clean slate for all teams, and you can't count anybody out from this point on. We've done it once, and I don't see why we can't do it again. And despite not having Anders Lee, this team is deeper than it was in last year's run.
On paper, I think it's
yes.
Because when you look at, again, I think that fourth line is going to be what hinges the team's success quite a bit. I think there's the Palmieri's and all the the scorers need to do their job and you need to find some consistency, even if it means it's one line one night, another line another night. That's a consistency that they've been able to kind of string some success together with.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that. I don't care that Barzal scores once every 3 games, as long as it's once every 3 games. That's pretty consistent. And Brock Nelson's also doing it. Right. And occasionally they pile it on and score 4 or 5 goals in a game. I'm fine with that. They're built to score 3 goals and win a game. I don't love it. I don't like being that nervous all the time watching games, but here we are. They find ways to win. And if there's anybody that can turn the team around, we have that trust in Trotz. So they, goaltending and coaching out, it's really tough to bet against them. I'm nervous. I want to see how they play first before I start gaining some confidence.
Yeah, and one of the big advantages that I think that the Islanders have is the goaltending. And once that goaltending, if and when it starts heating up in a way where, Varlamov is stealing a show, and he's absolutely making sure that the Islanders are in every game, the players in front of him start to play a little bit better too. So I think there's a little bit of an advantage there as well. We'll see how it shakes out, but understand and go into the playoffs with clean slate, new season. And like I said earlier, halfway through that second game, if they already lost the first game, they look like crap. 10 minutes into the second period, that's when I'll start to worry. And I would advise that should be when anybody starts to worry. So we'll see how that shakes out. Next question came from @Ricky_Buddha. Why is Bellows still not playing? Well, let me ask you, Ricky, where's he going to go? Because you're going to take Komarov out of the lineup right now? I hate to tell you, bro. He's producing. And maybe he's not scoring every night, but he's making sure that other people are because he's doing his job. We should probably talked about this earlier too. You saw what happened with Pasternak, and he took a penalty right before that, but he's also a little bit of an agitator, which we kind of need, right? Clutterbuck and Martin are the tough guys on the team, but I don't know. Komarov just has a way of getting under a guy's skin, and if you want,
it's different.
Yeah, it's a little different, right? And if you want Evgeny Malkin to get really mad and take a penalty, Komarov knows how to get that done. So not only that, but he is playing on the first line, and like I said, he's creating space for Eberle and Barzal. So where's he going to go? He's not going to play over Palmieri. He's not going to play over Wahlstrom. Second line's intact, and he's not going to play fourth line minutes. It's just that's not his role. The fact of the matter is that he just doesn't have a spot right now, and it is not his fault. It's a little his fault. His defense is a liability still. He is scoring. It's good to see he can score, but when he's not in the offensive zone and he's on the other end of the ice, it's a little suspect.
Wahlstrom is going to be, other than Sorokin maybe getting a game, if there's a back-to-back or Varlamov tweaks something or whatever the case is, those will be the only rookies in the lineup.
Correct.
And end of discussion. There's just not. I don't see a scenario unless there's like a bunch of injuries. Even then, Zajak's available. There's still other players kind of maybe ahead of Bellows. I just don't see him. Trotz is not going to put rookies in the lineup if he doesn't have to.
It's not his way.
It's not his way. Dobson isn't necessarily a rookie anymore. It's his first full season, quote unquote full season. But he's kind of proven he can hang. Wallstrom's much the same, although he's been in and out. But I think they're trying to find things that stick. And the last 3 games, other than major players sitting, there really weren't that many lineup changes. It was kind of, a guy or two in and out just to rest or, get their head straight. But yeah, I don't see a guy like that going in cold. That's not. Some players can do that. Ross Johnston, Zajac, probably a couple other guys, maybe one other person. The rest of the roster is kind of escaping me at the moment. I see Bellows as a guy that needs to be in there for a while to really kind of get his juices going. So I don't think that's someone you just can throw in cold, where Johnson's kind of made a career as being the 13th, 14th guy and can be thrown in at a moment's notice. I just don't think that's Bellows' role. And so they wouldn't be setting him up for success if they did it on purpose, like, instead of out of necessity. So yeah, I don't really see it.
Yep. But we're going to pack up the car now. We're going to head to around the rink, and we'll take a drive up to Edmonton, and we'll talk about the prodigy that is Connor McDavid, because, boy, did we question whether the fact or not he was going to hit 100 points last week. I said I think he gets 101. My man is sitting at 102 points right now with 2 games in hand. That is utter insanity. He currently possesses the highest points per game since the year 2000, above Mario Lemieux, who, that was like towards the end of his career, and company. So that is a feat that I don't know is ever going to be hit again, because this is, look, I can't account for and talk for, speak to guys like Shane Wright or Connor Bedard who are coming into the league. I don't know how good they're going to be, but right now I find it really hard to believe that anybody is going to surpass what Connor McDavid is doing right now. 54 games, 102 points.
Yeah, and then actually the crazy stat to me was like, what was it? 34 points in 11 games. He's scoring a goal a point a period.
That's insane.
And what's crazier than that? They lost games.
I know.
How does he go to his teammates and he's like, yeah, guys, I literally can't do anything more in 20 minutes.
Right. Well, it's not my fault, guys. So you gotta figure it out.
Look, I hate to be like, it's not me, but it's really not.
God.
It's incredible. So
could you imagine having that on a team that you root for? Oh my God.
It'd be frustrating because they make the playoffs, but they're not built for any kind of run. I think he can only will them so far, before the team runs out of steam.
And we would be talking about, if we weren't talking about Connor McDavid, we would be talking about how great of a season Leon Draisaitl is having with 80 plus points in that amount of games. 102 points in 54 games. It's almost 2 points a game.
Yeah. It's insanity. It is. I don't think it's been a long time since we've seen something like that, and it's certainly outside of a lot of our memories. I guess depending on how old you are, but yeah, it's incredible. I kind of wish I watched more Edmonton games. I might need to tune into the playoff series for sure.
Yeah. The good news is now we get to see it hopefully in the playoffs. The Edmonton has been hit or miss. But they're in this year, so we'll see how he does in the playoffs as well. Maybe Edmonton can go on a run with McDavid and start upsetting some other teams. But we'll see how it shakes out. Let's take a drive down now to Buffalo and talk about Jack Eichel. Made some comments. I'll be ready for next season, wherever that might be. What? Jack Eichel out of Buffalo?
So the Wyshynski, he tweeted out, I think a lot of people have tweeted this out, but he quoted Jack Eichel. I've been a bit upset about the way things have been handled since I've been hurt. There's been a bit of a disconnect between myself and the organization. The most important thing now is to get healthy and be ready to play hockey next year, wherever that might be. That's the end. So that's the rest of the quote from what you just said.
Yeah.
It's not great, Bob.
No.
It doesn't look good.
Sarah Sivan quote tweeted it and says, "Oh, he gone."
Oh, he gone. Oh, he for sure is.
I love that. Do you think
he's gone before the start of next season?
I think that he'll start the season with the Sabres. I do. He's not happy, but also it's going to be really hard to work out that deal because the asking prices are going to be astronomical, and I don't
think
has
that $10 million. What team has to forget about like the picks and this? It's gonna be a 3-team trade or something crazy. Like somebody's got to retain. Buffalo's got to retain something because I don't know how you do it.
It's gonna be hard. I think it's more likely that Sam Reinhart is moved before Jack Eichel, but like you said, who has $10 million to except maybe the Senators, but that's a lateral move for him. Here's the thing. He has a no trade clause next season, not this season. Well, not the season coming up.
When does it kick in?
It kicks in the following season, not the season coming up,
not the 21-22.
Right. So he could be dealt anywhere. I think he sits tight. I think he keeps his mouth shut for the next year, and then he kind of can pick and choose where he's going to go.
I don't know
with his no trade clause. It's going to be really difficult to move that contract. It's going to take a lot of moving parts.
Well, there's the expansion draft.
There is the expansion draft.
Teams are getting creative. It's really the cap hit. That's the problem.
It is. Look, and I could be completely wrong. I wouldn't be surprised, but if he gets moved, but I just think it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot. A lot of people are saying the New York Rangers. Half of the trade scenarios that people were putting out there to get Eichel when it was a rumor at the beginning of this season, people were like, "Oh, that's too much." Meanwhile, you were getting Jack freaking Eichel. You might have gave up Kaapo Kakko draft picks and maybe I don't know the newly signed Ryan Lindgren, but you do that every day for Jack Eichel.
I don't know that I would. I think we
said the same thing about Taylor Hall, didn't we? Look at him now.
Well, yeah, that's a little bit different because he wasn't going to sign on Long Island. I don't think he wanted to. I think Boston he waived, and we were going to talk about this in a second, but he waived, according to Dave Pagnotta, the fourth period. He waived to come to Long Island,
right?
And the Islanders chose Palmieri and Zajac, and we'll talk about how we feel about that in a second. But so it's possible he came, but I don't know that he was going to resign. With Eichel, he's got the contract.
Yeah.
And he's got the no trade.
True.
I don't know that, you trade a Kakko and a Lafreniere who are not even, they're on entry-level deals, which gives you a lot of cap flexibility. Eichel's not old. Like 26, 27 isn't old.
Is he even that old yet? I think he's 24 turning 25. If I'm not mistaken.
Please hold. Not a great podcast moment, but
he is 24 turning 25.
Okay, so
his birthday is October 28th.
It's obviously he's not old. He's got plenty. He's in his prime. He's a fantastic hockey player. I think any team is happy to get him. The same way that Taylor Hall, I would have been happy that he got here. Whatever the Islanders gave up. Same thing with Palmieri. Happy that he's on the team, but I'm not totally sure. Like, these guys are really young. They have a really good team already. They have a Panarin. They have a Zibanejad. They have an Adam Fox. Like, do you need a supporting cast at this point, or do you need another star? Now, the Rangers are known to just get the stars,
right?
So it's not crazy to think that. It's just the dollars and cents of it all. I don't know how it's trading Kakko is not going to get you him, right? Like that could start the conversation, but then it's like the Rangers then have to come in and say like, okay, well, salary's got to go. And that's where the Buffalo has to retain something.
Yeah.
Which the Pagulas, don't want to be laying out cash. So I have a hard time believing that they would want to do too much of that. Buffalo also needs bodies. Like almost nobody is signed there next. Like, so they have another thing to figure out aside from like, all right, so you trade Eichel, you need people to play.
You know who was signed there next season? Jeff Skinner. And the season after that, and after that, and after that. He's there for quite a while. So, but it's hard to imagine who's not going to be interested in acquiring Eichel. They're going to certainly field plenty of calls, but it's just going to, like we said, it's going to be a matter of dollars and cents and who's moving out and who's moving in. And, you also have to think about the rest of your lineup. If we acquire Jack Eichel, could we build around him? Could we sustain keeping talent around him? Again, the flat cap is still a thing, in case you forgot. So having $10 million on the books in a flat cap era is pretty tough.
Yeah, it really makes everything a lot more complicated. I don't know where he goes. Every team is going to be, their GMs are either figured out they can't do it, but a lot of people have thought about it.
I have a gut feeling he ends up on the LA Kings. Don't know why.
Maybe that's not the worst thing. It depends on where they are, but they have a good prospect pool. They're kind of already going. If they can afford it, I don't see why that's not a crazy. I haven't heard anything. I'm sure you haven't either. Like one way or another.
It's just a gut feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that's being talked about right now is that he's got that neck issue, which he actually sustained against the Islanders.
Yeah.
Kind of a long time ago now, I guess in late March or
early April. Didn't he have 2 surgeries too, I think?
I know. No, I think the thing is now is that the team is saying that they don't want him to have surgery.
Oh, okay.
And he, I think, wants to. So that's part of the discussion. It's becoming a little complicated. So that's where like, okay, now people know he's injured.
Right.
He's been injured. He's been out. So the trade value kind of goes down.
Right.
It's complicated.
Yeah, for sure.
And he doesn't really have the control. So the team can just, like you said, kind of decide not to do anything.
Right.
Which, kind of like a Taylor Hall, maybe, despite you not knowing what you know right now to be true, it seemed like it's Taylor Hall. They should have gotten a better deal, but his trade value plummeted and he controlled where he went.
Right. So
you kind of put yourself in a weird situation if you're the Sabres, which they continue to just do.
Yeah.
Sorry, Sabres fans. I doubt any of you listening to this show, but you feel bad because they're a passionate fan base. I've been to plenty of their games.
Absolutely.
So I don't know where he ends up. I don't know how it gets done. You kind of wish it was a little more like the NBA where these big trades, but the cap issue, and especially the flat cap issue, is handcuffing everybody.
Yeah.
So the expansion draft might open up some doors, frankly.
Absolutely.
So we'll have to keep an eye on this moving forward.
Yeah. Speaking of Taylor Hall, we know he's on fire. He's playing the best hockey he's probably played in the past 2 or 3 seasons. It's only been a couple of games, but I think he's got something like 7-8 goals with them in 14 appearances. It's just been a really good run for him with Boston. And he was vocal about it. He said, "This is the best hockey I've played. This is the most fun I've had. And this is, I love being here. This is the best situation for me right now. And I hope to see it continue." So it's worked out well for Hall and the Bees. They will be tough to beat in the postseason. And like John said earlier, according to Pignota of the 4th period, he waived his no trade to come to Long Island, but Lou decided to go with Palmieri and Zajac. And it's easy in hindsight to be like, oh, well, Lou made the wrong decision. But again, let's see what the playoffs bring before we judge the trade. The majority of you were calling for Palmieri anyway. I know offhand, I've had dozens of conversations with some of you who said, steer clear of Taylor Hall, holy crap, what a cancer. And I was like, pump the brakes, not necessarily the truth. And it's showing now, but again, it's easy in hindsight to say, oh, that was the wrong decision. There's still some time before we can judge any of those moves, right?
I think the conversation, at least part of the discussion that I was having at that time, whether talking about whether it could be Hall or Palmieri, is I didn't feel Hall hit that would fit well with the roster. That was my only. I figured he'd play well with a good team.
Yeah.
I don't think that was the question. He's a good player. He didn't forget how to play. I think that was exactly that was my words. He didn't just not remember how to play hockey. That's not a thing that happens with NHL players. He's going to play better with a good team.
Right.
I felt that after the deal was done, that Palmieri and Zajac fit with what the Islanders' identity was. It wasn't anything flashy. They weren't looking for somebody to just come in and come on towards scoring pace. They were looking for someone that can play both sides of the puck. Hall seems to be doing fine with that, anyway. And it's a different structure on that team, so it's hard to say if you'd have the same success with the Islanders. You'd
Correct.
have to redefine what that looks like.
Yes. Good point.
It's hard to say. It depends, and you really have to think about it. How are we defining? Then how are we defining success for Palmieri? Only a couple goals. I didn't look at his advanced stats before the show, so I don't know if they look good or bad or
they're not great,
indifferent. So
they're not horrible. Not
but
great.
Again, Pajot didn't look great when he came, and that was like, damn, didn't they sign him to 6 years and scored 2 goals in 7 games and didn't do a whole lot else? And then in the playoffs, there's a different story. So I think it could be judged on his playoff performance, and then in the offseason, all of a sudden he gets signed, and we're all like, yep, that's the guy we want.
Yeah.
So I don't think you can't judge it right now. You can say that Taylor Hall had a better post-trade deadline than the guys that the Islanders got. That's totally, you're well within your right to say that. And you're right. So I don't know that he'd have the same success on this team.
Yeah.
It's just not how they're built. Maybe he changes things. Maybe that's the direction they go in, but it wasn't where the Islanders wanted to go, and we'll see how it turns out. They might be a second-round matchup, and the Islanders will have to figure out the Bruins beyond that top line, that's been the 3 losses have been primarily at the hands of not the first line.
Right. Yeah, Bruins got a little deeper, and it's just what they needed, it seems, to get them going again. But that wraps it up for this week, John. Want to just say a quick thank you to the Hockey Podcast Network, the Hockey Writers, and of course, all of you, our listeners. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to or watch the show. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Nassaumen Hockey, and find our work at the Hockey Writers. Until next time, everybody, let's go Islanders.